Hey, everybody, welcome back. It is a week 8 edition of Between the Lines podcast. I'm EDGYTIM. Joining me, as always, is Mike Clark. And Mike, unbelievable, but we are another week or so, and we're talking playoff pairings and wrapping up the end of the regular season. And I know we say this every year, but I'm going to say it again. It just flies by. It really does.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to get that suit out of the closet then, because we don't see you in a suit very often. But that's one of
Thank
the
God.
things
Yeah.
that happens. So,
Looking forward to that. Looking forward to recapping our week 7 games and previewing some, I think, a pretty good week 8. Some really good games on the schedule this week. So we'll dig into that in a moment. But Mike, we're going to start with you. You covered obviously a lot more games than I did this past week. So let's talk about it. Let's start with your first game, Curie and North Lawndale.
yep, I was back out at Rockney as I often am this season. It's the home stadium for Curie and Kennedy, which are two of the main teams that I cover for Southwest Regional, specifically the Southwest News Herald on the southwest side of the city. So another win for Curie, 30-26 over North Lawndale. Condors are 6-1, so they've clinched a playoff berth again. Malik Horton had kind of an interesting day. Had 3 touchdowns. He had the game-winning pick on the very last play of the game to clinch the win. He also had a fumble that he lost that set up a go-ahead touchdown for North Lawndale in the fourth quarter. Kind of a cool redemption story. He got a second chance and came back. Darius Townsell, who's the number 1 running back for Curie, 105 rushing yards. It was his birthday. I can remember we talked about this a little bit last year. He's got one of the more interesting backstories, I would say, of anybody in the state. 5 years ago, he was riding in a car. His family was visiting relatives in Gary, Indiana, and someone fired shots into the car. And Darius's twin brother, Demetrius Townsell Jr., was struck and killed. Just a remarkably tragic situation. Obviously, Darius is in the interim. He has worked with violence prevention groups, including one that's run by Matt Forte's foundation, the former Bears running back. So he's, obviously he's got a personal stake in this and some perspective that most of us can't even really begin to understand. So, and obviously with being his birthday and obviously his twin's birthday too, it was kind of an emotional day for him. But again, big win for Curie. They did lose their quarterback, Gabriel Taylor, again. He missed a couple of games with injury. He got hurt again in this game. But, I've talked about it quite a bit, but what Jarve Lewis Bay and Keenan Phillips Riley, the head coach and the offensive coordinator, respectively, have done with Curie's program has been pretty remarkable. Curie's going to be back in the top division of the public league sooner rather than later. And it's just, a really cool story. It's, they've got all the ingredients for success. They've got a lot of history in the program, as you remember, going back to Jay McDonough and Tyson.
Absolutely.
A lot of kids in the school. It's a big school. They got a lot of athletes, so they should be successful, and they are now. Friday night, I went out to Barrington and saw Barrington and Fremd MSL West showdown. I want to say that Barrington's game night situation is about as good as any that I've ever seen, I think. First of all, they've got enough parking.
Yes.
They got lots of lots around the school, so that's not an issue. That's nice. They're very streamlined in getting people into the stadium efficiently. They have rosters.
Very nice rosters.
I've had a little bit more trouble with that this year than I would like, but no issues there. As we know, they have one of the signature concession stand items in the state, which is their pork chop sandwich. It's a barbecued pork chop sandwich, actually. Excellent.
Yeah.
And just the you just notice that there's so much on top of the details. It's just really impressive about how
Agreed.
smooth the whole process is. It's a bit of a hike for me as it is for you, but it's definitely again one of the more smoother and enjoyable um, places to cover a game for us. And also, obviously, they got a really good program. Joe Sanchez does a great job there, as does Lou Sponsel at Frem. Johnny O'Brien, the Northwestern commit quarterback, did not play for Fremd. We had heard that would happen. It did happen. He didn't play.
Yeah.
Sounds like he would have played if it had been a playoff game, but they were being careful with him and didn't see any reason to push it. So Barrington wins. Barrington's storyline to me is that after they lost to Maine South a few weeks ago, Joe Sanchez said he and his staff got together and said, "What can we do to get better?" And the answer was play 0-4s both ways. 0-4s is offensive lineman who's going to Northwestern. Also, there are actually 3 Northwestern commits on the rosters for this game. Owen Jakubczak is another offensive lineman from Fremd who's going to Northwestern. But 0-4s, you've seen them, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just a really talented, big, strong, quick, technically sound offensive lineman. And now he's playing defense and being really disruptive on that side of the ball. So, what it kind of reminds me of, remember a few years ago, it's actually more than a few years ago now, when Maine South had Kevin Jarvis play both ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was something that Dave and Sarah really resisted doing. He did not want to play anybody both ways, but Kevin Jarvis was just such a force. He did, and they wound up winning the state championship because of that. And I think that it's a similar kind of an impact that Barrington's getting from playing 0-4s both ways. So,
Yeah, really, I was really bummed out that Johnny O'Brien didn't play. Obviously, yeah, you always want to see these two teams at their best, and playing for a conference title, most likely it'll wind up that way. But again, no one can blame Lou and Friend for keeping Johnny out, waiting for the playoffs probably to get him back, and it makes all the sense in the world. But Mike, I think Barrington's a good team to watch for sure in 8A, because we talked about how loaded 8A is going to be. Barrington could be a nice fit in one of the brackets here. They could be a tough up and go, I think, at least go a couple of rounds.
Yeah, they've got obviously a pretty nicely balanced offense. Lamar Osterhus, their young running back, he had 107 yards, a couple of touchdowns in this game. And Luke T-Pass, their quarterback, had a 40-yard rushing touchdown, 197 total yards. So, they got a lot of good pieces. They had 3 interceptions in this game too. So, I would agree. 8A is tough. Barrington, I would agree, is not going to be an easy out. Saturday, I was out at Gately for Morgan Park and King. King is up in the Metro division for the first time. They've got a program that's on the rise. Their calling card is they've got some really big linemen who've been. That's how they've basically been able to raise the level of their program. Not quite at the level of Morgan Park yet, though. Morgan Park wins 42-0. Nasir Rankin, the Illinois commit, 4 catches, 151. Receiving yards, a couple of touchdowns. One of them was an 84-yarder, and the other one was a shorter one, but he was running a crossing route in the end zone, and ball hit him. He juggled it a little bit and maintain possession. Just very good. He's got skills that you can't teach.
Yeah.
Basically, he's very
Yeah.
instinctual. And the other takeaway for me is that it's been a few weeks since I've seen Morgan Park, but sophomore quarterback Ronald Smith Jr. has really gotten better. He was 9 of 13, 275, 3 TDs. Obviously, the 84-yard TD helps that stat line a little bit. But he just seems more comfortable, I would say now, and more assured in his throws. So Morgan Park has 2 big games coming up. They've got Kenwood this week, Simeon next week. So it's kind of like the beginning of the playoffs for them. And one of the things that Chris James said afterward, when I talked to him about that, he said this is their city championship because the way the public league playoffs work, there's a good chance that they won't be in the public league playoffs because they'll be advancing far enough in the state playoffs, which is what's happened the last few years. So they take this very seriously. But yeah, Morgan Park's kind of a different kind of a team than it's been in recent years. Although they're kind of getting back to maybe the way they
Right.
were when.
Yep.
The last 6 years, there was kind of an interesting stat. I think I might have mentioned it before. They had 2 quarterbacks in 6 years. First was Aaron Warren, and then it was Marcus Thaxton, who covered those 6 years for them. And now bringing a new quarterback into the system, they relied a little bit more on the running game early in the season while they were kind of getting
they sure did. Yep.
And now they're kind of unleashing it a little bit. But anyway, so that was my weekend. I know you only had 1 game, but it was a pretty good one.
We did, yeah. By the way, I'm real interested in Morgan Park and the transformation there offensively. I'm going to go Saturday when they play Kenwood, and I'm really interested to see how it's kind of developed and good for Morgan Park because they're going to obviously need both run and pass come playoff time. So interested to see how well they do. It's a really good Kenwood team. Friday, I was out at Providence hosting Loyola. Nice crossover matchup in the CCL. And Providence comes away with a 21-20 upset over Loyola. Loyola 14-0 lead early. Really had everything going for them in the first half. And it seemed like it took Providence about 1.5 quarters before they kind of settled in a little bit and started moving the football. Really big game from junior running back Broden Mackert, 24 carries, 142 yards, 2 touchdowns. Really second half, Providence ran 44 plays in the second half to, I want to say, 18 or 19 plays for Loyola and just really grinded it out. It was kind of like a throwback to Matt Seffer football in that second half where they had the horse as a running back and they just kept feeding them and just kept picking up yards. And something you don't see too many Loyola teams do is give up yards on the ground. And, again, give Providence all the credit. Really good offensive line play. We talked about Mackert, had a big game. Dominic Vita is just a sophomore quarterback. Yet another one, Mike. It seems like every week we're seeing great junior and sophomore quarterbacks, and Dominic Vita is going to be another one on the other side of the field for Loyola. Matthew Lee had a really nice game for them, drove Loyola really almost 2/3 of the field for what would have been they scored the touchdown and trailed, so they went for the 2-point conversion in the win, and Lee got a tackle outside the pocket to basically end the game for Providence. So again, just a thrilling back and forth game. And, I think a lot of people want to know about Loyola. Well, what's up with Loyola this year? And just what everyone has said is very true. It's a very young team. Matthew Lee, sophomore, McKinley, the wide receiver, Jordan McKinley, just a sophomore who, by the way, we talk about 2028 and, we talk about Cameron McGee over Brother Rice. I tell you what, I think Jordan McKinley's right there with him as far as tremendous athlete. Kid already looks like he's college ready and could probably play a half dozen different positions if you really needed him to do it. He's just a terrific athlete. Melo Maldonado, another sophomore running back. So a lot of core for Loyola this year is young. And yeah, they lost to Providence, and I think a lot of people were surprised. But, again, this might not be the Loyola that we've seen the last handful of years. But, Mike, this is still a pretty good Loyola team. You can't overlook them, and you just don't want to see them in the playoffs. They're still incredibly well coached. They do a lot of good things. And again, this young team eventually, Mike, is not going to be so young. And it'll be sooner rather than later when I think they get back to that level that I think a lot of us expected. And give Providence credit, Mike. I mean, this is a Providence team that's going to wind up in 5A. And, Mike, they could win a state title in 5A. They really could.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Loyola, too, obviously not having that week 2 game, so they're only going to play 8 games.
Huge.
They're 4
Huge.
and they've got 2 tough ones to finish with. You got Carmel with Trey Taylor, of course, and then they finish up with Mount Carmel. And, just as a reminder to fans that the number one criteria for getting to the playoffs is wins. So the most wins they can get is 4. 4 wins might get them in.
And it's also going to hurt them playoff points, Mike. You get no playoff points for not playing a game, and it's another criteria. So yeah, they're going to be a little nervous in the Loyola community the next couple of weeks, especially this coming Friday, because as you mentioned,
obviously, if they win one of those games, then they'll be in.
Right, you're good. Right. But we've seen Trey Taylor put up 50-some points already this year against Montini. So it's very capable. That offense can really go off. And, I'm sure Loyola will be ready. I mentioned the coaching. They'll have them well prepared. But, yeah, that could wind up being like a really wild game on Friday night.
Yeah, and, I've been thinking about this too, about throwing it in as a topic one of these weeks. One of the odd things about the CCL ESCC. So we have these conferences, and they're all 4-team conferences. So you only play 3 conference games, but you play 3 conference games, and you play 4 crossover games within the CCL ESCC umbrella. And the crossover schedules are not created equally. And some of the crossover schedules are a lot harder than others. And I know there's a formula there. It's not, like some conspiracy or anything like that they're trying to make it tougher for some and easier for others. But the way that things kind of shake out, because I want to say the formula has something to do with, like, if you were a second place team in your conference, then you match up against the other second place team. It's something like that. I don't know that that's exactly what it is, but
I believe you're right. But yes,
it's something similar to that. But what you wind up with, and we talked about Joliet Catholic. Joliet Catholic wound up with a really, 2 of Joliet Catholic's crossover games. One of them is Mount Carmel. That was just this past weekend, actually, and they had some other really tough crossover games too. So,
I think Fenwick was one of them.
Right. I think that was it too. So you got 2 ranked teams that are your crossovers. It's harder. JCA is sitting at 5 losses now. So,
and that's the difference, Mike, where if JCA happens to win this week and then beat Providence in week 9, they'll be at 4-5. But the difference for them and Loyola, if Loyola winds up 4-5, I mean, JCA is going to have probably over 50 playoff points. So they'll probably be one of the first teams at 4-5 to get in.
Yeah, and I haven't checked with the Seuss, with his projections about how many 4-5s or 4-win teams he's got in. But yeah, I mean, you would think that JCA, if they can get to 4-5, would be first through the door for sure.
Yeah.
And, so anyway, let's run down a few more interesting games from the week. Glenbard West rolling on 44-20 over Hinsdale Central. It was Jamarcus Kelly's turn to star for the Hilltoppers. 19 carries, 196, 4 rushing touchdowns. Riley Contreras had 233 passing and 2 touchdowns for Hinsdale Central. One of the, I don't know, have you seen Glenbard West this year? I can't remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. They've got these shirts that you will see at games. Their motto this year is "Restore the Honor." And after last year, they missed the playoffs for the first time since 2006. They're very determined to get back to the tradition of what Glenbard West has been. And I've seen them as well. They're a very prototypical Glenbard West team. All these running backs, defense is solid. And the X factor, of course, is A.J. Rayford. They've got a quarterback a little more mobile and dynamic than some of the other quarterbacks they've had in the past. Nothing against the other quarterbacks, but A.J.'s just got a different dimension. So the hitters roll on. Stunner in the Duquesne. Wheaton Warren South 33, St. Charles North 7. Owen York, 40 carries, 285 yards, 5 touchdowns for the Tigers. Wheaton South's was one of those, obviously, a proud program, great history with John Thorne, Ron Muhich, multiple state championships and its legacy. They've been flying a little bit under the radar in recent years. They've been a playoff team, but this is kind of really probably their best win in a while, honestly.
It is, no question.
And makes the Duquesne a little bit more interesting actually now. Downers North 41, York 28. Story here: Owen Lansu is back. He broke his arm earlier in the year. His non-throwing arm, fortunately, broke his non-throwing arm. Josh Welge from Shaw Newspapers had the story. Broke his arm, had surgery. He's back now, and you can tell that he was ready to come back. 388 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Oliver Thulin, 8 catches, 195. And I believe it was Oliver who said in Josh's story that Owen Lansu was throwing, most of the time he was out actually, because it was, there was nothing wrong with his throwing arm. So he had a cast on his non-throwing arm and he could still throw. And, so that was a kind of a unique injury, I guess, where you can still do what you needed to do, but you couldn't play, so that was kind of an odd situation, but he's back now.
And how good is North, where you lose a kid like Owen Lansu and yet you only manage to lose one game during that stretch? I mean, that's pretty impressive. And you get your running back like Kevin J, you just slide him on over into the quarterback spot and he gets you some big wins. That to me, that just tells me how good Downers North is and can be the rest of the year.
Yeah, and they beat Hinsdale Central without Owen Lansu, and now they lost to Glenbard West. Now they've beaten York, so I think they still have Lions to go. I want to say, I think they still
so.
Yeah. On the other side, Dominic Alfano, the York quarterback, got hurt in this game, but his backup Zach Assad had 153 passing yards, so he showed up well in relief. Warren 28, Stevenson 13. Guess what the story of that game was?
Same story all year.
Yep, Aaron Stewart had 31 carries, 175 yards, 4 touchdowns. So here are Aaron Stewart's season numbers: 209 carries, 1,892 yards, which is 9.1 yards a carry.
Crazy.
32 touchdowns. And that was a big win because there's basically 3 teams in the North Suburban this year that have been pretty strong: Warren, Stevenson, North, and Lake Zurich. So a good win for Warren.
Warren has Lake Zurich this week.
Yeah, I just noticed my notes are incomplete. Oswego East did knock off Yorkville.
Yep.
Should give a shout out to them. So that creates a three-way tie in the
The
Southwest
wacky West.
West. Yeah. And that sets up a big crosstown rivalry for Oswego and Oswego East. I saw that one year.
I did too. Yeah. Fun.
It's been a while. Yeah. But that's that's one of the better rivalries for sure. That that the folks in that town are big on football, and that's a game to watch for sure. And now it's a lot more interesting because there is that three-way tie.
Yeah.
So,
Mike, I remember seeing that game, and it was at Oswego East. And if you're familiar with them at all, there's like one main road
right,
kind of leads in, and it was
yes,
like watching Hoosiers or no, Field of Dreams,
right.
where they fade back and you just see the line of cars with headlights. That's exactly what it looked like. It totally reminded me that for that game at Oswego East. And literally, Mike, anyone that lived in Oswego or around there, everything else was closed. They were all at the game.
Yeah, for sure. Just throwing out a few more notable performances. You have Jonas Williams' current numbers, I believe, for us.
I do. Yeah. So obviously, he's already set the career touchdown passing mark. Did that a week ago. After last week, he is now 466 yards away from setting the all-time career passing yardage mark. So, what do you think? Again, we said week 9 last week. I think I'm gonna stick to that. Probably will most likely, knock on wood, stay healthy, knock that out probably next week. I mean, I guess technically he could do it this week, but I'll go a little conservative with it and say hopefully week 9 he'll get a chance to do it.
Yeah, you don't really see Rob Zvonar pushing it in any of these games. And he's certainly capable of throwing for 460, 470 in a game. And there may be a game where he has to do it. We don't know.
Yep.
It's a
Yep.
possibility. There, at some point in the playoffs, they may be in a situation where he has to do that. He's certainly got some receivers who could catch 65, 70, 80-yard passes. So, we'll see.
I think what this is setting up is week 9. East is actually playing that Thursday, hosting Sandburg.
Right.
So that's obviously there's a handful of Thursday games, but I think that one's going to have maybe not as bright of a spotlight on it. And, Sandburg at one point was 6-0, and now I think they've lost, or 5-0, and I think they've lost 2 in a row now.
Yeah.
So that takes the shine off that just a little bit, but I got a feeling they're probably targeting that week 9 game against Sandburg.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting move too, because
Mhm.
obviously they're looking to get an extra day of rest before the playoff game. So I kind of, we had that spell there a few years ago coming out of the pandemic where we had a bunch of Thursday games. The Southwest Missouri actually played their conference games on Thursday for a year or two. I wish more teams would do it, honestly, because I know it doesn't help you very much because you got your radio show and you're not going to go
Fine. We talked, it's funny you mentioned that because, we saw when that happened that first year and we really talked about switching the day we were doing our weekly radio show. But as you've seen, it really didn't take off. It just kind of died out after that first year. So we didn't see a real need to do it.
No, I think probably what one of the issues is that it's harder to prepare. It just really is harder to get the preparation.
Short.
Yeah. And, they do it on the other side, when like Glenbard West will play Saturday games, obviously. But I mean, it's a little bit different because a lot of teams don't do much, if anything, on Sunday anyway. This isn't the NFL or college. There's a lot of those programs are not going to do much on Sunday if they do anything at all. That's more maybe of a coach's day to get together and to start talking about the following opponent, but they don't really do much in terms of practice. So,
Right.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is the way it is. Interesting game. Not really a lot of like ranking implications or anything, but St. Charles East and Lake Park, a lot of big stats came out of this game. St. Charles East quarterback Cruz Herrera, 432 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Wide receiver Tyler Bradley, 3 catches, 188 and 2 touchdowns. And Lake Park receiver Nico Minos, 11 catches, 214 and 3 touchdowns, including the game winner with 8 seconds left. What else do I have? Marist, running back Connor Hunt, 25 carries, 168 and 3 touchdowns. And actually, I do have the Oswego East Yorkville highlight. Josiah Watson, 253 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns for Oswego East in that one. I think that's what I've got. Do we have any questions? I don't think we do.
I don't think, I checked a little while ago. I did not see any. One thing I'm trying to look real quick, Mike. Do you happen to know off the top of your head Lake Park's record? I think you're still in contention in the playoffs. I think you still have a chance.
Yeah, I can check
I'm going to bring it up real quick. Hang on. 1 second. Because that's a team that I saw in the summer, and they just look like they were good. They had a nice mix of kids, good quarterback, and did some nice things.
3-4, but the team maybe we want to mention out of the Duquesne, Glenbard North is 5-2.
Yeah, they are. I'm glad you brought that up. Yep, they are, and I know they're.
Yeah,
I can't remember the young man's name, but I know they have a really good running back that year, put up a ton of yards, and kind of typical Ryan Wilkins team. Good, really good, strong running game. They've been playing great defense all year.
Yeah, they had kind of a rough spell for a while there, and Ryan Wilkins is a really good coach. Kind of similar to Wheaton North actually too. Joe Wardinsky is
good comparison
as well. And then, Wheaton North had that real great bounce back year. Obviously got all the way to the championship game. So, what year was that? I can't remember now. So
I can't either.
Yeah, I know, but they had a great year. That's just shows you what the Duquesne is like, though. We talk a lot about the Batavias and recently Geneva and St. Charles North, but Glenbard North is there. The Wheaton South we just talked about earlier. Wheaton North, it's as good of a conference as you're going to see for that 6A, 7A level. So
no question about it. Top games, we got quite a few. It's a good week. Week 8's pretty solid. Well, here's one right now that I think I'll just read this one off and we're done. We can just stop for the rest of the show because nothing will be better than TF South at TF North playing on a brand new Over Petrie field.
Yes, we have the Mushroom Wooden Shoe Trophy, which I'll get a picture of and put it on my.
You do all the time, and I love that you do that. So keep doing it.
Do. And North is 5-2 right now. Is that right?
Are they?
They're 4-3 or 5-2. South is 2-5. Anthony Pignatello has done a great job at TF North, and probably have the upper hand a little bit in this one, but very unpredictable, as you know.
Very much so.
It's a game where
North is 4-3.
Okay.
South is 2-5.
Right. Yeah. So North looking for a win, one win these last 2 weeks to get it back to the playoffs again. South is got kind of a tough road, just to get to 4-5, honestly. But Trent Jensen has kind of reset the program over there. I went out and talked to him last week, actually, for a story for one of my other publications, the Lansing Journal. And they've got a lot of good things going in the pipeline at TF South. They have 3 levels now. They got the freshman program back. There is a feeder program in town, and that is very, very much wanting to work with the high school program. So
Right.
that's a very key part of it for a lot of these programs. If you have a feeder program that's willing to work with you, I mean, the best examples of it are up at Prairie Ridge and Cary Grove. They have everything basically integrated from you know fifth and sixth graders, all the way up through the high school. They run the same offense. They learn how to run that option offense, and that's one reason why Cary Grove and Prairie Ridge are so good.
No
Again, because
question.
you have that cooperation between the youth program and the high school program. So South's got some good things in the
Yep.
pipeline. And North
Yeah.
again, Anthony's done a great job there. So yes, I will
Trent's,
be at that.
Trent's an alum. Trent's been around that program forever, and I know it pains me to say it, but I know he'll do a good job at South. There's no question. So
All right.
let's move on. Several more top games around Chicagoland for Week 8. Lamont at Richards, Mike. That's become a nice kind of crossover battle between these two every year in the South Suburban for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Richards, Ahmad Buchanan, their running back, had 6 touchdowns last week, tied a program record there. So that was very, I mean, imagine that. Richards has a good running back. Not
Yep.
nothing new in that program.
Nope.
Obviously, they just graduated Miles Mitchell, who went to was it North Dakota State? I want to
Yeah.
say.
Yep.
So, and you can keep going back through the years. Richards has always been solid. Lamont has pretty much been the team on that side of the conference, but this year Oak Forest is also having a good season.
Great year. Yep.
So Lamont and Oak Forest look to be the class of the South Suburban Blue this year. So this is kind of like an unofficial South Suburban championship game, I guess you might say. So
Totally agree. Moving on, Carmel at Loyola, as we talked about, major implications for both, but especially for the Ramblers. Going to need to get a win over the next 2 weeks, and of course, Loyola takes on Mount Carmel in Week 9. So, now you got to try to get that win if you're the Ramblers for sure. Also, Romeoville at Plainfield East, both of them are 4-3, Mike, and gosh darn it, someone's got to win that Southwest Prairie East. Someone's got to win it. It could very well be one of these two.
Yeah, and either one of them, Romeoville in particular would be a great story.
Yeah.
Romeo, it looks like they're having a nicer season this year for sure.
Yeah.
So
I know Justin Travato, the head coach, was week 2 or week 3 Bears coach of the week. So yeah, they're having a really nice year, and he's done a nice job turning that program around a little bit. Glenbrook South at Maine South, battling the Central Suburban South, and both are obviously having a very good year. Once again, Mike, Glenbrook South just kind of quietly getting it done this year.
Yeah, Anthony Bonvecchio, their quarterback, is having a great year. And also, I just want to stop and go back and clarify.
Mm-hmm.
Wheaton North won the 7A title in 2021.
Yep.
So that was the comeback year for Wheaton North and the Falcons. But yeah, Glenbrook South is having a great season again. Anthony Bonvecchio seems to be the guy who's kind of driving it for them, and the Titans will be probably another tough out in the playoffs too, for sure.
Yeah. Now, game that I'm planning to attend on Saturday, Kenwood taking Morgan Park. That's 11 a.m. kickoff at Gately on Saturday. And you said Simeon Phillips following?
That's right. Yeah. So you've got a
2 really good games back to back.
Metro there. Yeah. Yeah. Morgan Park. Kenwood is going to be an interesting one. I saw Kenwood against Simeon a couple of weeks ago. Kenwood's really good. A lot of people think Kenyante Lewis is the best quarterback in the city, and he's got a bunch of good receivers, a lot of speed. They like to throw it vertically, and they're very effective at it too. And then Morgan Park, just as Morgan Park, they haven't lost in the city in 3 or 4 years. So that you would think that that's probably the city championship game, pretty much.
Yep. Bishop Mack at Chicago Hope should be a very good game. Both of them had a terrific season this year. Glenbard North at St. Charles North. Also, my Friday game will be Prospect at Hersey. Big battle in the mid-suburban East. Should be a great game. It's always a great game whenever those two get together. Also, we talked about this one a little bit. Warren is at Lake Zurich. Again, big game in the North Suburban. Going through, we've got Oswego East at Oswego, as we mentioned, the Battle of Oswego. Another good one here, Mike. Bradley at Lincoln Way West. Lincoln Way West undefeated, went to Lapeer, Michigan, and beat the you-know-what out of Lapeer, Michigan. So they are undefeated, 7-0. Bradley's only loss was to Lincoln Way Central. So, again, definite big matchup in the Southwest Suburban West Conference. Palatine at Friend, interesting match, Battle of Palatine there. Glenbard West at York, and then Downers North at Lyons. So, again, some really good games, Mike.
Yeah. And this again is week 8. So as we look ahead a little bit to week 9, the intriguing ones there are always going to be the ones where they're in effect playoff games, basically, where teams that are 4-4. Sometimes you get a 4-4 versus a 4-4. Winner gets in, loser has to sweat a little bit. So those, I'm kind of looking forward to some of those games too. And again, I haven't really dived into the possibilities of how many 4-win teams are going to get in yet. But Seuss has all of that.
We'll have a pretty good idea. I'll talk to Steve, and probably when we record next week, we'll have a pretty good idea of where that's falling for now. But I know one for sure in week 9 that out in my area, actually our area, they've been talking about for a while is Joliet Catholic taking on Providence in week 9. I mean, again, it could be anything. It could be chess. It could be checkers. It doesn't matter when they play each other. It's a big deal. And, JCA, if they win Friday at De La Salle, we give them 3 wins. As we mentioned, if 4 wins get in, JCA, you've got to think is one of the top teams from a point standpoint that could get in. But, again, beating Providence, no small task. So I know that's one for sure that's going to be a big, big deal next week.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I think that's all we've got.
So again, thanks everybody for watching, for the feedback. Again, we will always seek out your questions, and I'm sure as we're getting into week 9 mode, the questions will come fast and furious. So we'll be more than happy to entertain those. Just check our Twitters. We'll have something up to date. We always generally record recording a day later this week. But next week, generally, we'll record on a Monday afternoon. So look Monday on our X accounts, and we'll put it out there. Any questions, we're always happy to answer. And again, just enjoy the feedback. And Mike, I filled you in. I'm doing mid-suburban Friday, doing public league Saturday. So that should keep me busy. And I know you're probably trying to figure out the half dozen games we're going to cover.
Yeah, actually, this is it's Tuesday, so I am a little bit farther ahead in my planning. But on Thursday, I'm going to go see Bogan, which is kind of an interesting story. They didn't have enough kids to play in week 1, but they won 6 in a row since. They're in one of the blue divisions in the public league. Who are they playing? I don't remember who they're playing. Actually, Bogan's a team that I'm covering, so that's my concern. TF North, TF South. I will be at the Battle of Burnham on Friday, and then, as I said, I'll be at Simpson and Phillips on Saturday. So, the recording on Tuesday means I'm a little bit more organized than I usually am. So,
yep, it's all good. All right, for Mike Clark and EDGYTIM, thanks everybody. Appreciate watching. We'll be back next week, and by all means, go out and watch a game. See ya.